Hi, I'm Van Phillips, European Tour winner and PGA coach, and this lesson today is all about how do we get the most backspin on those chip shots. Okay, so let's get stuck in. I want to just get rid of a myth first before we begin, and that's the myth that if we strike down on shots we get more backspin. Now let me explain a little bit of theory here. When we strike down steeply on a golf ball, generally what happens is we reduce the loft that's presented to the ball. Okay, so dynamic loft is different to static loft. When we start off in the address position here, we've got a certain amount of loft on the club. I'm using a 60-degree wedge here. Now, if I hit down excessively on this, I'm going to present somewhere nearer to about 54 or 55, or maybe even less, maybe even 52 degrees to that ball at impact, okay? And that's going to just give us a lower takeoff. The ball's just going to take off lower, the launch is going to get lower, okay? It's not going to put more spin on the ball, okay? Now, if I could keep that 60 degrees of loft and get steeper, then I would put more spin on the ball, but that's very difficult to do, okay? So please don't just think that you can hit down on shots and that they're going to spin more. So what do we need to do then to get more spin? Well, we need to present the most amount of loft we possibly can to the ball, okay? Loft equals spin, okay? A 60-degree loft at impact is going to spin the ball more than a 56-degree loft at impact, okay? So more loft is definitely going to create more spin, and more speed is going to create more spin, okay? So we want to get maximum club head speed with maximum loft to give us the optimum chance to get the most backspin on any shot that we hit, okay? But particularly, obviously, when we're around the green and we're trying to get some spin on those chip shots. Now, when we're chipping from very short range, between sort of 5 and 10 yards, obviously because that shot is so short, we're going to have to make a relatively slow swing. Even with a 60-degree club, we're not going to be able to put loads of backspin on those short chips. So again, from an expectation point of view, you need to know the limits, you need to know the parameters. Don't try and put loads of backspin on a little 5 to 10 yard chip. Now, the sort of chip I'm dealing with here is more in that 20-yard range. So it's still a very typical shot that you'll get around the green. Now, I've chosen my 60. As I said there earlier, we need the most loft. So again, there's a lot of instruction out there that's telling us to go for the lowest loft and run it along the ground. That's fine if we've got lots of green to work with, but sometimes we need to chip it up onto a ledge, or the green is raised and we want to put some backspin on that shot. So go for your most lofted wedge. Mine's a 60, I hope yours is too. It's always a good recommendation to have a lofted club in there, at least a 60. Phil Mickelson and those guys have got 64 degrees in their bags at times. Sometimes they switch around, but a lot of the time the top players have at least a 62 or a 64 in their bag. So a 60 would be my minimum loft recommendation for you if you want to be able to put backspin on your chip shots. So let's get stuck into the setup then. So I talked about not wanting to get too steep, okay, but by the same token we do want a slightly descending blow, okay? We don't want to come in absolutely horizontal to the ground, because then we're going to create the less chance for backspin, or the least amount of chance for backspin. So we're looking for that happy medium. We want a slightly descending blow, delivering the maximum amount of loft we possibly can. So the setup can help us to do that. Okay, so I'd advise that we get the ball very centrally in our stance. Use your sternum as your reference point. Try to line up the ball directly in line with the sternum there. Narrow stance. Remember, these are short shots. It's only a 20-yard chip shot, so I don't want to take a great big wide stance here. That's going to encourage a bit of weight shift, which we don't really want in this shot. So narrow stance, ball in the center, and I would also encourage a slightly forward lean with the weight shift, okay? So a little bit of weight distribution, maybe 60-40 favoring that front leg. Again, that's going to just help us to get a slightly descending blow, which is what we want to give us the best chance to get a little bit of backspin. Now, with the club face, I do want to recommend that we very slightly open that club face. So the toe of the club, when you're looking at it, you just want to swivel it just a tiny bit to the right. Now, this is a little bit subjective. I want you to imagine that that leading edge is a clock face, if you like, and I've got it pointing straight up to 12 o'clock at the moment. And in your imagination, I want you to imagine that you've just swiveled it to 5 past 12, okay? So maybe 4 or 5 degrees of movement there in that toe. I certainly don't want you to go anywhere near 45 degrees with that leading edge. So just a minimal opening of the club face there, and that's going to do a couple of things. It's going to give you more ability to use the bounce of the club on the sole of your wedge. You have a bevel, which we call the bounce, and when you open the face, you're going to use that bounce a little bit more, and that's going to help you with contact, and it's also going to give us a little bit more loft. So I've talked about loft giving us the best chance for backspin, so by opening that face, we're adding a little bit of loft, and therefore we're going to be able to get a little bit more spin potentially. So we've got a nice central ball position, weight slightly forward. Now the hands, I just want to stress here, again, we don't want those hands miles in front, okay? That's going to de-loft the club, and again, that's going to just bring the launch down. It's not going to help us with backspin. So yes, we do want the hands fractionally ahead, okay? So think about it as just having that lead wrist, okay? My left wrist, my lead wrist. I want the back of my left wrist to feel that it's maybe 1 or 2 inches in front of the ball at address. That's enough. We certainly don't want 5 or 6 inches, okay? And that shaft should only be leaning forward very slightly past the vertical, okay? So if we've got a vertical shaft there, we're just looking for a teeny bit past vertical. Again, we just want that tiny bit of a descending blow. Now, the action itself, I'd like nice soft hands. Hold the club relatively softly, about 5 or 6 out of 10, because I want that club head to be able to swing during the motion, okay? I don't want you to be rigid and have lots of tension in your forearms. I want the club head to have the ability to create speed. Remember at the beginning I was talking about speed and loft being the main 2 spin factors that we're looking for. So in order to create that speed, we need soft hands, we need that club head to be able to zip under that ball with as much speed as we possibly can relative to a 20-yard shot. Okay, so we've got soft hands, got all those address positions that I'm looking for. Now the movement itself, I can't stress enough on these little chips how much you need to use your whole body. There's a big misconception that we should only use the wrists and arms when we chip, and I want you to feel that your hips, knees and trunk are the real initiators. I want you to feel that they move the club away, and because you've got a light grip, the weight of the club head is going to swing itself through momentum. Okay, so if I use my big muscles to swing away and I've got a soft grip, the head will just naturally have a little element of flail to it. The weight of the head will swing if my grip is soft. Okay, so using the whole body, hips, knees, trunk, to move that club away in one simultaneous coordinated movement. Moving back now, I want to talk about the follow through, because this is all important if we're going to put maximum spin on that ball. Now I've talked about soft hands. Now what I want you to try and feel here, when we've set the club at address with that slightly forward lean, what we want to do is we want to return the club as near as we can to that slightly leaning forward position. We don't want to lean back, and we don't want to create more forward angle, okay? Now what I suggest to encourage that is maintaining the weight on that forward leg. So as I turn my hips and chest, I'm still feeling there's a little bit of pressure on that forward leg, and I'm going to try to have a real sense that my hands are going to stop quite abruptly after impact. So I'm looking for a really abrupt, firm finish here with the hands around belt buckle height, and I'm using that as a real guide. It's in my mind that I'm going to finish there, so I'm very aware of that. I'm very aware of my finish point, and that's going to help me to accelerate to that point. I'm not going to be worried about impact. Okay, in my mind I'm focused on finishing here, hands in front of my belt buckle, and that's going to encourage the club head to be able to release just enough into impact that I'm going to maintain that forward lean It's not going to flip because I've got this very positive image of holding my hands in front of my belt buckle here, and I just want you to be aware to not feel the club head passing your hands, okay? You're going to always feel that you've maintained that nice flat left wrist, hands opposite the belt buckle, okay? I'm going to go ahead and have a go on this shot now. Really managed to get some zip there. There was lots of acceleration. I was very aware to finish here, nice and firm in the left wrist. That allowed the club head to release just enough that I didn't get too much forward shaft lean. I was able to present the most loft to the ball as possible with the most amount of speed possible, okay? So really critical factors there. Loft and speed generate spin. Wow, hope you can see there's a tremendous amount of spin there on that little chip shot. Hope you enjoyed my video. As always, please subscribe to this channel if you're enjoying them. Check me out on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. And head over to my website, www.vanphillips.co.uk. There's over 60 videos there on everything from the all-important psychology right through to some great putting tips. You'll enjoy it a hell of a lot.